My daughter-in-law demanded my life savings. What I did next left them speechless. Let me tell you something, honey. I have been on this earth for 68 years. I buried a husband. I raised a son on a teacher's salary and a prayer. I clipped coupons for 20 years so I wouldn't have to burden anyone in my old age. I drove a 2009 Buick with a cracked dashboard and a busted air conditioning because I was saving. Saving and saving and saving. And then one Tuesday afternoon, a perfectly ordinary Tuesday, the kind where the birds are singing and the mail comes on time, my daughter-in-law Tiffany sat across from me at my own kitchen table, in my own house, with a cup of my own coffee warming her hands, and she looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Barbara, we need you to sign over your savings account. All of it. It's only fair." I didn't say a word. I just sat there with my hands folded in my lap, the way my mother taught me when she said, "Barbara Jean, before you speak in anger, you sit on your hands and you breathe." And I breathed. Because what I was thinking in that moment, Lord forgive me, was not something a grandmother ought to say out loud, but what I did over the next 6 weeks. Oh, sweetheart, pull up a chair. Because this story does not end the way Tiffany thought it would. But before I go any further, if you are watching this right now and you have ever been taken advantage of by someone you loved and trusted, I need you to hit that like button for me. And if you are new here, please subscribe, because I share stories every week about standing up for yourself when life tries to knock you down. And tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? I have had people watching from Nigeria, from the Philippines, from Canada, from right here in Georgia where I live. You all warm my heart more than you know. Drop your city or country below and say hello to Barbara. I read every single one. Now, let me take you back to the beginning, because you need to understand who Tiffany is to understand what she did. And you need to understand what she did to understand why what I did next was not cruelty. It was justice. My son's name is Daniel. Danny, I called him growing up, though he hates that now. He is 41 years old, 6'2", and has his father's eyes and his father's weakness for a pretty face that bats its lashes just right. His father, God rest his soul, was a good man. Richard died of a heart attack when Danny was 19 years old, and I watched my boy grieve in ways that broke me open. He became quieter, more desperate for belonging, more easily influenced by people who offered him warmth. I understood it. I did. But understanding something doesn't mean you can stop it. Danny met Tiffany at 34. She was 30 at the time, divorced once already, with 2 children from that first marriage, a boy named Caden and a girl named Briley. I want to be very clear. I never held that against her. Divorce happens. Children are innocent. I welcomed those babies into my life with open arms. What I did not welcome, what I should have paid closer attention to from the very beginning, was Tiffany's relationship with money. Not money she earned, money that belonged to other people. The first Christmas after they got together, she suggested, very sweetly, very casually, that Danny buy her a Chanel bag. Danny was working as a contractor at the time, making decent money but nothing extravagant. He put that bag on a credit card. She posted it on Facebook with the caption, "He knows how to treat a woman." The second Christmas, it was a vacation to Cancun. Just the 2 of them. She showed me the pictures. I smiled and said the beach looked beautiful. By the time they got married 2 years later, Danny had $27,000 in credit card debt. He had not had before he met her. I found this out not from him, but from a quiet, worried conversation with his best friend Marcus, who pulled me aside at the wedding reception and said, "Ms. Barbara, I'm just saying, keep an eye on things." I wish I had listened more carefully to Marcus. 3 years into the marriage, Tiffany and Danny hit a financial wall. The credit cards were maxed. They had bought a house with a mortgage payment that required both their incomes, which was fine until Tiffany decided she didn't want to work anymore. She called it focusing on the family. She had a lifestyle blog that made roughly $40 a month. Danny came to me one Sunday after church. He sat at this same kitchen table, the one where Tiffany would later demand my life savings, and he looked exhausted and ashamed and very much like the 19-year-old boy I watched bury his father. He said, "Mom, we're struggling. We might lose the house." I said, "What do you need?" He said, "Could we stay with you for a few months? Just until we get back on our feet?" I said yes. Of course I said yes. He is my son. A few months turned into 14 months. Now listen, I want to be fair here. In the beginning, there was a genuine effort. Danny helped with yard work. Tiffany cooked dinner twice a week. The kids, Caden and Briley, were sweet and mostly kept to themselves. I had my downstairs bedroom and my sitting room, and I told myself this was fine. This was family. This is what you do. But slowly things shifted. The cooking stopped. Danny was working long hours, sometimes 6 days a week, trying to dig them out of debt. Tiffany was home all day with the children and the lifestyle blog, and I would come to learn a growing group of friends she met at a spin class that Danny was also paying for. My refrigerator started disappearing. Not dramatically, just quietly. My good coffee replaced by a cheaper brand. My special occasion chocolates simply gone. My heating turned up to 74 degrees while I slept because Tiffany said she got cold. Small things. Individually meaningless. Together they painted a picture. Then the comments started. Not direct. Tiffany was never direct, that was not her style. It was always sideways. Always dressed up in something that sounded like concern. Barbara, have you thought about what you're going to do with this big house when you can't manage the stairs anymore? Barbara, you know most people your age simplify their finances. My aunt put everything into one account and it was so much easier for the family. Barbara, Danny mentioned your retirement fund is doing really well. That must be such a comfort. I heard every word. I filed every word. I smiled and changed the subject every single time. But I started paying very close attention. 14 months in, on a Tuesday in October, leaves turning orange outside my kitchen window, a pot of vegetable soup on the stove. Tiffany asked Danny to take the kids to soccer practice. Just the two of them, she said. She had something she wanted to discuss with me. She sat down across from me with that cup of my coffee. She told me that she and Danny had been speaking with a financial advisor. They had not. I confirmed this later. She told me that they had a plan, a wonderful plan, to stabilize the family finances and create a legacy for the grandchildren. She slid a piece of paper across the table. It was a handwritten list. At the top it said, Family Financial Consolidation Plan. At the bottom of the list, in Tiffany's loopy handwriting, was this line. Barbara transfers primary savings account approximate $94,000 to joint family account. Managed by Tiffany and Daniel. $94,000. Every dollar I had saved since Richard died. Every dollar I had not spent on vacations or handbags or spin classes. 19 years of quiet, disciplined sacrifice. She wanted me to sign it over to a joint account that she would manage. And she actually said this, it's only fair, Barbara. You've been living here rent-free for over a year. I had been living in my own home. My own home. I sat on my hands. I breathed. I looked at that paper. And then I looked at Tiffany and I said very quietly, very calmly, let me think about it. She smiled like she'd already won. She had not. Okay, I have to stop right here because my heart is racing just telling you this part. And I need to know, are you still with me? Hit that thumbs up if you cannot believe the audacity. And drop a comment. Does Tiffany remind you of anyone in your own life? Because based on my last video, I know I am not alone in this. And again, where are you watching from? I see you, Johannesburg. I see you, Toronto. I see you, Manila and London, and right here in Atlanta. You all are my people. Now let me tell you what happened next. I did not confront Tiffany. I did not tell Danny, not yet. What I did was call my best friend of 41 years, a woman named Claudette, who had been a paralegal before she retired, and I told her everything. Claudette said, Barbara Jean, don't you touch that money. And don't you sign a single piece of paper. And call a lawyer in the morning. I called a lawyer in the morning. Her name was Patricia, and she was 63 years old and had the energy of a woman who had spent 40 years watching people try to take things from other people. She listened to me for 45 minutes. Then she said, Mrs. Barbara, what you've described is financial elder abuse. It doesn't matter that it's family. It doesn't matter that they're living with you. What she asked you to do is a crime. I wrote that word down on my notepad. Crime. Patricia helped me do 4 things over the next 6 weeks. First, I opened a new bank account at a different bank entirely, one Tiffany had no knowledge of, and I quietly transferred my savings there. All $94,000 of it. My old account, I left with just enough to appear untouched. A decoy, Patricia called it. I called it poetic. Second, I had Patricia draft a formal letter on legal letterhead, establishing that Daniel and Tiffany were guests in my home, that no financial arrangement of any kind had been agreed upon, and that I retained full ownership of all assets in my name. This letter was notarized. I did not show it to anyone yet. Third, I called my financial advisor. A real one, not a fictional one like Tiffany's, and I updated my will and my beneficiary designations. I had been meaning to do this for years. Tiffany's little scheme gave me the push I needed. My estate is now arranged in a trust that Patricia helped me set up. Clear. Protected. Ironclad. Fourth, I started writing things down. Every comment Tiffany made. Every time she turned up the heat or used my good towels or told the children that Grandma's house will probably be ours someday. She said this. Caden told me. He is 11 and thought it was strange too. I wrote it all down. Dated. Documented. And then I waited for Tiffany to ask me again. She asked me on a Saturday evening. Danny was at the table this time. She had clearly decided it was time to close the deal. She brought the paper again, the family financial consolidation plan, and she slid it across the table with a pen already uncapped. She said, "We've been very patient, Barbara. We really think this is the right move for all of us." Danny looked uncomfortable. He wasn't meeting my eyes. He knew something was wrong, but he had let Tiffany drive this car for too long. I reached into the cardigan I was wearing. I had planned this. I had worn a cardigan with pockets specifically for this moment, and I put two things on the table. The first was Patricia's letter. The second was a printed bank statement showing my savings account balance. $1.12. Tiffany's face did something I do not have the words for. It collapsed and then rearranged itself and collapsed again. I said, "I moved my money 6 weeks ago. Every penny of it. It is in an account you will never have access to, managed by a trust that Patricia, my attorney, helped me establish. This letter informs you that you are guests in my home, that no financial agreement was ever made, and that I will need you to vacate this property within 30 days. Silence. Danny said, "Mom." I said, "Daniel, I love you. I have always loved you. But I need you to understand that what your wife asked me to do is called financial elder abuse, and it is a felony. I am not filing charges. I am giving you both the grace of 30 days and the dignity of a quiet exit. But you will be leaving my home." Tiffany stood up. She was shaking. She said things I will not repeat. Ugly, vicious things. And I sat with my hands folded on the table and I let her say them. When she was done, I said, "The soup is on the stove. Help yourself." And I went to my sitting room and I turned on my programs. That was 8 months ago. Danny and Tiffany moved into an apartment 3 weeks after that dinner. It was a difficult, painful 30 days. Danny barely spoke to me. Tiffany did not speak to me at all, which was, honestly, a relief. But here is what I want to tell you because this part matters. Danny called me on a Wednesday morning about 2 months after they moved out. He said, "Mom, I need to tell you something. I didn't know she was going to ask you for your savings." I swear I didn't know the whole plan. I believe him. Partly. I believe he did not know the full scope of it. I also believe he knew more than he admitted to himself. But he is my son, and grief made him vulnerable, and love made him blind. And those are human failings I can hold with compassion. We have been having dinner together every other Sunday, just the two of us at a restaurant neutral ground, and slowly we are finding our way back to each other. Tiffany and I have not spoken. The children, Caden and Briley, I still see. Their relationship with me is separate from their mother's choices, and I refuse to let them lose a grandmother over this. I pick them up on Saturdays sometimes and we bake and watch movies and they tell me about school. Caden asked me once if I was angry at his mom. I told him that sometimes grown-ups make choices that hurt other people, and that the most important thing we can do is protect ourselves without losing our kindness. He nodded very seriously, the way 11-year-olds do when they are filing information away. My $94,000 is safe. My house is in the trust. My will is updated. Patricia checks in with me every few months just to make sure everything is in order. Claudette and I have standing Tuesday lunch plans. I drive my Buick, same cracked dashboard, same busted AC, and I feel for the first time in a long time completely free. Because here is what I learned at 68 years old, that I want to pass on to every single one of you. The most dangerous threat to your security is not a stranger. It is someone who has learned the geography of your love and decided to use it as a map to your resources. You can love people and still protect yourself from them. You can love your child and still hold firm. You can forgive someone and still never let them back into a position to hurt you again. Kindness is not the same as compliance. Grace is not the same as surrender. And a cardigan with pockets? Absolutely priceless. If this story touched you, if it gave you courage or made you think, or made you feel less alone in something you've been going through, please give this video a like. It costs you nothing and it means everything to me. Subscribe if you are not already here, because I come back every week with more stories. Stories about life after 60, about holding your ground, about the quiet power of a woman who has been through enough to know what actually matters. And one more time, I genuinely want to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. Your city, your country, even just a flag emoji. Let Barbara know she's got a friend out there. Because after everything I've been through, that is what keeps me going. You, watching, right here. God bless every one of you. Same time next week. Barbara, 68, Georgia.